Y'all, I'm so excited for today's episode because you're going to see how we make Schiff happen. You're going to see what I mean in just a minute. Today, I have an amazing couple. Rob and Leslye Schiff are here, and they almost called it quits pretty far into their marriage, and now they're helping other couples to lean in a line or let go of the relationship, but do it with who they truly want to be. We're going to talk about some of the tools they use, their personal stories, and you're going to get a lot out of today's episode. So welcome to the Psychedelic Coach Podcast. Check it out.
Whether you're a life coach, therapist, biohacker, invested in wellness, or in the healthcare profession, if you have an intention to work in psychedelic spaces, you're in the right place then. If you're called, get involved. But first, get informed. Let's talk the 4 N's: intake, intention, in-space integration. Leading to deeper transformations. Psychedelic Coach Podcast, Kole. Walk you through the process, it's all possible. Leave space for the follow through. Most importantly, integration is not optional.
Rob and Leslye Schiff.
Woohoo.
Today we are going to make Schiff happen. I love to say it. There's no way I could have you on the podcast and not say it. I feel like it would be wildly inappropriate for me to deny the rest of the world. Epic Schiff.
Love it. Love it.
We love that, man.
So we're going to go, it's always one of those. Do we start now? Do we go back? Do we go all the way back to when your parents first met? No, we're going to start. So I met y'all a couple years ago here in Austin. And as soon as we met, we were like, oh no, this is my people. Like this is going to work. We're going to do this. And so I want to get into a little bit of, y'all work a lot now with couples. You work with a lot of people, but it's like really the focus right now is y'all had a point in your marriage where there was a bit crunchy, a bit like, what are we doing? Not having fun. Rob, you said you were like a grumpy old man vibes going on. Right. And now you guys are there's so much vitality and enjoyment of life. And I watch how much fun you have together. And the fact that you're doing that with helping other couples to get there is amazing. So let's just start with, maybe we'll start with you, Leslye.
Sure.
Because you guys are supporting couples now, which we'll talk about later. But what was going on to even get to the work that you're doing now?
Sure. So back in 2016, when we moved and we came to Austin to live, and at that time, Rob lost his job. As soon as we closed on a house, the whole thing, he lost his job. And there was a lot going on. For him, it was really deep. And there was the provider in him was not there. And he was going through a lot of depression, a lot of frustration, I feel, with himself. And it was really affecting our relationship. And here we are. I moved to a place where I have no support team. And it was pretty dark. And our oldest was out of the house. And Zach, our youngest, was leaving for college soon. So here I was now with Rob in a state that I couldn't even really support him because I didn't have any tools at that time to support him. And at one point, I was literally like 1 foot out the door of our relationship because I was like, I can't live through this. When I had no tools, did the best I could with what I had. And also, I was looking at myself saying, hey, who am I? Like, here's my identity now. Like, I was doing my own soul searching because the kids are gone. I'm a wife, mother. That's all I've been for so many years. And here I was now really trying to rediscover myself. Mm-hmm. So
I think that's such a common thing. We'll say for women just because they're more often the ones that are the caretakers at home. But when that's been your career, when that's been like so much of your time and energy as the kids, and the relationship over time didn't develop more skills and didn't get more ways to connect or different ways, then suddenly when the kids go I feel like a lot of people get to this place of, oh crap, now we actually have to, now it's just you and me, kid. There's no distractions.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because Rob and I have been together for so many years. And here we were like, okay, what does this mean for us too? Where is our relationship? And I get a lot of women that come to me that are going through this empty nest. And now I've lived it and really, really was able to look deep within myself and work through that for me to really build to who I am and what my purpose is and what I need, what is next for me. And a lot of women that come to me and I guide them through all this because I've lived it. And they feel almost relieved when I say it to them. That I say, I'm totally with you and I understand where you're at.
Yeah. Rob, tell me from your perspective, because at that point, How were you feeling in the situation? Like just losing a job, you just moved to Texas, like all these things seem to be falling apart, or I don't know. Well, you tell me in your words what was happening.
Yeah, so it was interesting. We had the opportunity to move here. We knew that we were done in Southern California. That chapter was closed. And as Leslye mentioned, our son Zach went off to go to University of Arizona. And here we were living here. Our daughter was already here. And we're like, oh my God, this looks like a really cool start. New beginnings. Like I said, we were done in our old place. This was a new chapter. And then on the drive to here, on our final drive out of California, I get a phone call. So you don't have a job anymore. So financially, that wasn't a big deal.
Sure.
But what was big for me was, what am I supposed to do? That was my life. That was my identity, was this provider, was being this person, having this corporate job for 35 years. So I was just like, uh-oh. And underneath, there was a lot of other stuff still going on. I was stuffing emotions a lot. I was very involved in basically putting everyone in front of me.
Yeah.
It was what I was taught from my parents, my dad especially, his dad, other men of our generation, and basically that was one of the other pieces of this. And as Leslye mentioned, it showed up as me being like always frustrated. Anger would be popping. I'd be like, I called it the beach ball syndrome, right? You're playing with a big beach ball in a pool. You're trying to keep it below the surface. That's my emotions being stuffed. And every once in a while, the beach ball pops. And it pops up, and in a game, it's fun. But in our house, it sucked. It was really crappy.
What did it look like in the house when the beach ball popped up?
So either I would get very angry at something that's irrelevant. We burn the toast. I'll make something up. Yeah. And I'd be really angry about that. Why? It's burnt toast. Looking back today, from this point of view, it's just burnt toast.
You're like, it wasn't the toast.
Nothing to do with the damn toast. But at the time, I didn't even understand that.
Sure. How do you think that is the common trend or the common thing just with men in general, the ones that, because I feel like especially when we're talking for millennials, for Gen Z, they're calling them now, they've now been taught more to access emotions and have tools, and people go to therapy. But that wasn't really the case in previous generations. So do you think that this holding down and all of that stuff, because you mentioned like from your father, from your grandfather, have you seen that like historically with men?
It's very interesting, that we just hosted a retreat, and there was a gentleman there who's really not talking about any of his emotions. It was not part of his, I'll call it lineage with his family. It was just not accepted at home. So yeah, I agree with that. I agree. And also when you go into the corporate environment, I used to be, I am still a very passionate individual. At the beginning though of my corporate career, I was very passionate, and I would show those emotions in enthusiasm and things like that. But as that went on, and I worked for different companies, really wasn't accepted. It was really not wanted. And I was told by a lot of my senior leadership, you can't be like that, especially when I was a leader. So here I am now at work being told this, and at home noticing that I'm not really. And my dad's default emotions, unluckily, was laughter, anger. Those were the two. That was it.
Now we call that manic, by the way.
That very much so, yeah.
But that's the thing, right? Is it manic, or have people been conditioned to where you either suppress it till you explode, or only show the pleasant emotions that make it more comfortable for people?
I agree with that, yeah. It is exactly that. And I believe that's a societal trend.
Yeah.
It really is. From the work we've done with you and Ta, this was one of the biggest things that came up, is that emotions are not convenient. I use the example all the time. When you're in a store and there's a crying baby screaming, how many people are walking around like this? Going, oh my God, there's noise. There's something emanating from that little thing. Stop it.
Which we all were that little thing at some point. That's
and we raised a bunch of those little things.
A gaggle is out there.
So I just bring that up because it's really interesting. So I think you're spot on. I really and truly believe it's a huge part of this. And a lot of the men that we're dealing with are like that. Or they've shut their emotions down, but that also includes their wife or their partner, whoever that partner may be.
Yeah, well, because there's no in between. So it's either open to whatever comes out, or you have to close so you don't hurt anyone.
Exactly.
It's like as if I love you and I don't want to scream you out, but I have no other option, then the only thing I can do is shut down so that I don't hurt people that I love.
That's right.
So Leslye, you said that you had a point that it was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. When you work with couples, do you often see people that don't want to leave, but they just don't know how they could stay?
Yes. Yeah, and I worked with a few of the women, particularly, who say, I want to make this work. I know this is not over. And it's really just honing in on what is going on in their situation. And a lot of times, most of the times, it's all about communication, where there's a lack of. And people don't even realize that they're not communicating. And this is what led, like Rob really wrote these 3 pillars that we live by. And we created this blueprint, so we created the Connected Couples Blueprint. And so the first pillar of that blueprint is self-mastery. So it's all about like self-love, it's all being sovereign within yourself, and it's about the individual. And then the second pillar is about creating now that ideal relationship that you want. What is it that you want? How to become aligned together and move forward together. And then the third pillar is now nurturing that and being able to feel safe with communications and being in that relationship together and just expanding the intimacy and just moving on and evolving it. And it is such a powerful 3 pillars that we built, because when I present this to couples, people are like, this is amazing. They're like, wow, especially when you get to you, because a relationship is built on three people. So it's you, your partner, and then the marriage. And a lot of people don't even see that. They don't realize that. And I'm like, you need to be stable and really self-assured in yourself, and the other partner too, to bring that marriage together. And so the first pillar is really powerful, because especially for a lot of women, I find there's no self-love.
Do you feel like they even know what that means?
They don't. And people say to me, because they've been wrapped with the kids so much, that they don't even feel it. They go, I don't even know what that is. I haven't even looked at that. And that's an awakening for a lot of people, especially the women, to really now look back into themselves. Who am I? Like, I am a person. So it's very powerful. And I know for myself personally, to love myself, that took a long time for me to do, because I didn't have self-love, because I was always giving, never really looking at myself.
Yeah, there's something in it too that's almost like a comfortable distraction, because if I just put all my love and pour into the kids, it's almost a nice way, convenient way to not look at some of the parts of myself that may have been wounded. My younger years where there was disappointment. There's almost like most parents are trying to do different than their parents did. They're like, I'll never do that. And then they just repeat it in some other form or fashion. So when you had this moment, you have this, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're like, man, I don't know how to even make this work. What changed for you to go, okay, I'm going to figure this out?
So I didn't want to give up on us, because I knew that there was so much more there. And I just knew that this was just we were in a tough situation, and just trying to figure it out at that point, right? And I knew I couldn't fix him. Like, it wasn't in me to do that. And I just knew we're going to work this out. And it was rough. It was really rough. We didn't have tools that we have now. And we just did what we could together. And then we started to go on some retreats, which really, really cracked a lot of things open for us.
Yeah.
And really brought us back together. And then we saw the power of working as a couple and really being able to sit with each other, feeling safe, having a conversation together, because I stuffed my emotions. If he would have an outburst, I would just stuff it, walk away. And
that's your way of keeping the peace. Kind of. Okay, well, I'll just then pull all of mine in.
Right, because I go, I'm not going to feed into that. I'm just going to take it all in. Yeah. And at that point, it was just really us be able to sit down together to have a conversation without each of us getting so excited and the levels going up, and be able to hear each other and to communicate with each other. And as we started doing all this work on ourselves, and this was all showing up, we were, wow, like, we need to teach this. This is because we saw where we started and how we progressed.
Totally.
So it was major for us.
Yeah, for you, Rob, like, who do you think first inspired that we need to do something drastically different? Was it both of you? Was it
It was probably me.
It probably was you.
Yeah, it was probably me.
like in an outburst? Like you have to do something?
No,
or like
because
how did it come in?
so because the outbursts were becoming more and more frequent,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know that she was thinking of departing
Yeah.
the relationship.
That it was even like a thought in.
Not a thought. I was
It's one of those, it was on the table, but like that was a final straw versus.
Yeah.
and it was not something that she ever even shared with me.
Right.
It wasn't like a sit down at the kitchen table saying, "Hey,
No, she's withholding.
this is
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm not talking about this." So for me, it was very interesting because I was noticing these were happening more and more, and then I was feeling miserable
Yeah.
after these outbursts to say, "What am I doing? This is the most important person in my life." And my family was.
So it would kick in like that shame or guilt or.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. And it's also, look, there was some times of suicidal ideations for me and thoughts, and I was like, the only thing that really kept me here doing those times was her and our children. And that's huge for me. But I was also noticing at the same time I was pushing them away and taking them for granted and a bunch of other things. And as Leslye mentioned, the self-work piece was really where we all started.
Yeah.
As much as I'd love to talk about the fact, oh, we did couple stuff and everything, not up front. It was really about us, working on us, on me specific, Leslye specific.
Well, that's the thing is people will go and they'll hire, say, a marriage counselor or something like that, but they're not doing some of the individual work that's required to even be considerate of the other person. Like you want to be until you're hungry or tired, and then you go to the oldest operating system kind of a thing. And so when you were first working on yourselves, was there a moment where you were like, I get it? Like I didn't get it before, this like caring for yourself first. So, you know, like people say that, put on your mask first. You need to care for yourself first. But I don't know if most people actually get that until there's a moment that you get it. Did either one of you have a moment where you're like, I get it now?
So you had said that to us during Condor a bazillion times.
Yep.
And I probably thinking a bazillion and one, it clicked. It literally clicked us and said, wait a minute, hold on. And then some of the other work we had done was all of a sudden about the individual. And those two clicked together, almost like puzzle pieces. And I was like, oh. And we started talking about that. And again, the work we had done at retreats in that world was very individual focused. It was a weekend of, let's say, being apart and then some time together at the end to really talk through things. Or we did like a couples retreat and we spent the weekend working on stuff together. But it was a lot of individual work also. Yeah. So we're just like, oh, all of this, like I said, it all started clicking together. I don't know if you have.
Yeah. No, and it's huge because most people don't realize that it begins with them. They don't. They just look at the relationship where it really begins with each individual. Because if you're not solid in yourself, you have nothing to give a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And so the relationship can't, can't really develop and really evolve because you're not solid in you.
Totally.
You don't have anything to give. To be brutally open, you really don't have anything to give because you're giving from an empty cup, especially in my case where I was giving everything to everybody else, similar to you, but I was doing it on the work side and everything else, and the family and everything, and gave away everything that I wanted for me. So now I'm trying to give to me or anything else, and it became very difficult to do that because I didn't have any. I had no juice to squeeze.
And it's also about boundaries, right? I never had boundaries, never. And that became so obvious to me after a while that even my own daughter said to me, Mom, you need to put up boundaries.
Mom, you need to tell me no.
And that was like, because she was putting boundaries up in her life.
Right.
And when she said that to me, I was like, wow, that's profound coming from my daughter. But she was right. And I took a step back and I was like, wow, I have no boundaries.
Can you give me a breakdown for me what kind of things you would do that were signs that you didn't have boundaries? So that if anyone listening right now, they're like, what do you mean?
It's not anything, even with the kids, let's say, right? I would just let them, oh, I need to do this now, blah, 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 even if I didn't have the time. So now I'm like, all right, I'm going to make it happen. And I'm putting myself on the back seat because maybe there was something I really needed to do, but no, I'm going to forego it. I'm going to go take care of this. Right. Or even with Rob, anything. Maybe we were going to go do something that I really didn't want to do, and I wouldn't speak up about it. And I'd be like, okay, and I'd go along and do it, and it's not really what I wanted to do. But and it's also I feel like sometimes having the courage to say no. And a lot of people really feel that they can't say no. They feel like, I can't do that to somebody. But it's powerful, and I find people respect you more when you have a boundary. And I'll even say to Rob sometimes, like him and I never had boundaries really with each other. And I started putting boundaries up with
Both
him.
of us, yeah.
Both of us did. And I'll even say to him sometimes, you are getting really close to my boundary. I'm letting you know, so you need to back off. And he'll respect it. And the same.
How did it feel for you guys at first starting to put these things into place? Because you have a whole lifetime of habits and a long marriage of habits. So what was some of the initial steps in that you help couples with now of like establishing some boundaries? Because I watch people after being hurt for a long time put this very rigid boundary, but it's not a healthy boundary in a relationship. It's just like rivers on a riverbank, right? But it's like you understand what they serve. It's not just, if you do this, I'm leaving, with ultimatums or punishment or whatever. So how did y'all go about it, or how do you help other couples in going about even establishing boundaries?
I like to, especially when working with couples, we ask them to do little things first. Your example is the great example of, if you do this, I'm out. That's interesting and maybe true, but that may be that relationship's in a different place already at that point if they're going to that level. But yeah, we started even with just little things. Like for myself, asking, hey, I need some time for myself in the evening, whatever that means.
Yeah.
You like to, let's say, do a puzzle. That's not something I'm into, but I like to go, let's say, watch something, and you don't like that. So let's set a boundary. It's a request and a boundary to say, look, I want this, and when I don't get my time, I'm going to tell you that I need my time. Now, if you come to me and say I need this, I say no, this is my time.
Yep. I'll do that later.
Right, but not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now. All right.
How did that feel for y'all first doing that? Did you feel it when you were first?
It's really crunchy.
It is crunchy.
Even as I'm saying it to you, it's showing in my body. Give you an idea.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. It's like coming in and having Rob come in, and where in the past you would just stuff it down or just kind of like, I mean, it's basic people please, right? Like in different expressions for both of you, of him being like, Leslye, let's go do this. And you've got stuff you were already working on. Be like, no.
I will say her no is strong.
Okay.
I'm the fence without the lock on it sometimes.
Okay,
I'll just
fair.
leave it at that.
You're like, the hinges are on, the latch is one
at
of
least
those
I got a
little janky.
fence.
Yep.
But yeah.
The gate's on.
Right.
And it's got a swing
and it's
shut.
even closed.
Correct.
It just pops every once in a
Tell him he's got to tighten it up sometimes.
Hinge is getting a little janky there, Rob. We just need to tighten up that hinge just a little bit. Maybe put on one of those new little clip things.
while. Do something.
That's so funny.
Maybe.
Yes.
So, Rob, you've had a couple times then, because you said you lost your job in 2016. And I remember having the conversation with you when you came to Condor, and you're like, yeah, I think in a year I'll start coaching people. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just letting you know that at Condor, if it's correct for you, people just, they get fired, let go of, all these things. And I named it. And it was like 3 months later. It was pretty quick.
Yeah. It was early 22 when we said, oh, okay.
Oh, this is what we're supposed to do.
And it's funny. I think of the conversation you two had. You guys going to coffee for a 30-minute coffee. 3 hours later, Leslye comes home. And she goes, we're doing this. And I go, doing what? She goes,
She's like, exactly.
Kole said, we're doing this. I'm like, I'm really terrified. But okay, let's do this. One retreat later that month, and it was like, oh yeah, this is real.
Yeah.
And we can do this. The funny part about your comment about the job thing. So 2016, I find a new job probably 3-4 months later.
Yep.
And it was just okay. And then I leave that job, go to another one. That one just okay. And then I get let go from that one. And then I do another one. I mean, like 4 or 5 jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Our conversation now is like, how many times did the universe have to hit you in the forehead with a 2x4 saying you need to go maybe do something different?
That's usually, and we could either your human design or your astrological chart. If you dig around, it's usually in
there's
there.
attachment theory in there. There's a bunch of things.
We can. What is it? Pathologize or whatever
Exactly.
the word is there. Absolutely.
And of course, it was all perfect at the end of the day because
Always.
it really was. And it was funny because as Leslye was, I call it awakening to her intuition. She was already starting to feel these things. I was not, but she was already feeling them and saying, oh, he took this new job in November. he'll be out by April of next year. It was February, but it's okay, though. The universe doesn't...
You were wrong, Leslye, is all we're saying.
The universe doesn't know about time. She just knew it was going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And that was right around the time you two had coffee.
Yeah.
And it was literally perfect.
Yeah, I can't explain it, but ever since, right before COVID happened, we were speaking at a Human Optimization Summit. And it was the weekend they announced they were shutting down South by Southwest here in Austin. Mm-hmm. So we were at this event, we had just gotten off stage, and our main theme was there is a new wave of human evolution coming. So you're going to learn to surf it or get pulled in the undertow. Mm-hmm. I didn't know the depths of what I was calling in. I'm much more specific now when I speak at things to not do that. But that is really, for so many people, 2020 kicked off this inspiration or desperation to do things drastically different. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it hit everyone in 2020, but that wave caused an effect in many industries that changed a lot of things to where I saw from 2021 really until 2023, the influx of people getting into the coaching space, into the psychedelic space, into the therapeutic space, into the healing space exploded. Mm-hmm. It was unreal, the amount. And it's because so many people, for the first time because of COVID, couldn't escape their relationships. Now we're in the house together, where before if I traveled a lot for work, then I could stuff it down or hold it in or put all the anger towards something else. But once you're locked in together, cabin fever, no escape.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. I still have people coming to me who are just now getting out from being alone from the COVID.
Yep.
So that was pretty deep for a lot of people,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at that point, after me and Leslye had this coffee, and then I think I also had a lemonade, and then I also had we were there for quite a while. Sparkling water, there was a Pellegrino in there for sure.
I think we might have hit lunch at one point.
Yeah, I think I might have gone back for a sandwich. I don't know. But the thing is, I could already see, especially like Rob, with your corporate background and working with people, all those skills actually do transfer. And it's like I don't know what it is where people will come into like the coaching space or just supporting other people in their in just their own evolution, where they leave their skills behind. Being a parent is coaching little humans for a long period of time. And then you have your daughter's business and other things that y'all have been involved in. And so as you've allowed supporting other people and coaching couples to come into your field, what have been some of the challenges for that for you, either in construct changes or like leaving a corporate job to working for yourself? That comes with a lot of stickiness too, because it's even though you said you had the 5 jobs in that period of time, so there was a lot of change, it's not the same as working for yourself without the certainty of a paycheck.
Yeah, that was probably one of the biggest things that took me thinking about it now. I was saying 9 months to rediscover that. I think it was a lot longer. Now looking back in 22 and going back from that time when we did that. Mm-hmm. And it's even evolving now.
Sure.
As we do what we do now in a lot of different ways. And doing stuff like this, for example. This was outside of what I would have probably done in 21 or 22 if you had said, hey, come sit on my podcast. And I think we did try that a few times. Around
it's been a year.
But that's my point. It's still evolving for me. Yeah. And it was really dumping the identity and saying, who is Rob really? I'm not this sales engineering manager. That's great. Yes, that's a role. And I'm still a father, and I'm still a husband, and I'm still this. But who am I really? What is my essence? Because that's really what ties me to me and to my soul and to everything else, if you believe in that stuff. So.
Well, if you're not satisfied with your life, if you don't start answering those questions, you're never going to be. And Ta and I, something we used to talk about, because Ta's a nurse, right, has been for 30 plus years, almost 35 years. And I can't tell you the amount of doctors and nurses would retire and die within 6 months to a year because they worked themselves to death. They didn't have tools. And so then they would get other adaptations to work with, or substances or alcohol or TV, or maybe they go on one cruise a year, but then it's just drinking and eating the whole time, which degrades the body more if there's not activity. And we were just like, we didn't want to do that. Yep. We didn't want to be a part of that. And so what would you say to the person listening right now that was like, say, Rob in 2020, that has that provider thing. And it's like allowing yourself to, I guess, get to know a new version of you.
Yeah, is to start to look at yourself. Again, this is that individual work, right? To look at yourself and say, hey, who am I really? Men especially are tied a lot to their careers. If they're entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter. It's still their career.
Totally.
That's what shows, that's who they are. That's who they think they are. But there's more. There's much more to that. Now, we can do what we're doing. It is still a role, and we're still taking advantage of that. But yeah, and now, to be open, it's a bit scary. I really look to you and Ta in a lot of respects in the work we started doing with you guys when we started working with you about constructs, about all these things that helped, at least from my engineering mind, start to look at this and start to literally crack things open and be able to look deeper into it and say, oh, I understand now why I believe that's truth. Yeah. But it's not the truth. It's just an opinion. And it allowed me to go ahead and open those things up and be able to open this up and deal with that. Now, again, a lot of old programming, still dealing with it. There's still stories that play. That's okay.
You know what, though? Even when they play and you're in awareness, you don't react to them the same. And that's a big key difference. Because having, like you mentioned earlier, Leslye, it's like you guys didn't have the tools. And what a lot of what we mean by that is the language. Like, how do you take someone with an engineer mind who has worked in corporate structures and give them something that they can itemize and inventory to work with it? Because the most common thing I hear if someone hasn't done any work on themselves or the work, they're like, what do you mean when you say the work? They don't know what their emotions are. They don't know, because when you've been stuffing it down or you've been going to extremes, you're like, there's happy and sad. What do you mean? What else? Or angry. Those are the three possible emotions you can experience. And two of those are not acceptable out in public. So go to your room, get yourself together, and then we'll go out in public. And so as you're working with couples, what are some of the first things that you're saying to them that was powerful for y'all to start learning this common language and even constructs? It's a simple word, but people don't get it till you sit down and go, well, you have a construct around who you believe yourself to be and who she believes you are and who your church believes you are and who your job. There's job you. That's right. And there's home you. And the thing that, for me, of not just the Condor approach, anytime someone gets on the quest of that self-awareness, you're giving yourself the opportunity to get into integrity of who you believe yourself to be and how you're showing up in all aspects of your life. Because I know that for me at times, if I was getting upset or angry at someone, and that's not who I am, I'm tired, I had a rough day, that would eat away at me. So how do you start bringing some of this language to couples when they're like, what do you mean constructs, Rob? What do you mean that, yeah, I'm a provider, but that's what men do. But you're like, that's the construct. You know what I mean? Because it gets tricky. So how are some of the first ways you guys start to have that conversation?
I'd love you to talk about the folks that you talk with, but just quickly. For me, all constructs is identities. Just identities. And it's things that we've been taught and programmed. That's it. When people ask us, you know, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
And you know, like we said, this room is a construct. It is. It's a room that we're able to do a podcast in. It's just these identities and how we identify things. But when you're talking to people, what do you like to ask? Or what do you like?
Well, it's interesting because usually I'll just let them start. I'll say, so tell me why you call. You know, what's showing up for you. And as people start to talk, they always seem to break down with me, always, like within the first 30 minutes.
You have the tall witty gift.
Yeah. and it's interesting because they'll break down and they'll start crying and I'll say, hey, I'm here to hold the space, and I shut up. And I just let them emote, and they're talking as they're emoting. And when they're done, they say to me, oh my God, I haven't done that. And thank you, like for so long. And it really all starts with the emotions with people. And that's what I start usually around emotions, allowing it and for them to feel safe, because a lot of the times they can't emote in front of their partner. It's not okay. The partner looks at it as being weak. And so they hold it in, and now I'm allowing them the space to release it. Very powerful.
All emotions are welcome.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. All emotions are welcome.
Well, so especially if you didn't emote when you're in a marriage and suddenly you do, it scares everyone, actually. And that's where when we would work with people in psychedelic spaces before they'd go home, we'd be like, look, you're going home a different person. And it's going to be scary to the people around you. Even if before you were raging angry and you come back like Mr. Rogers, they're going to be terrified because they don't know this person. And again, in our society, then that's like manic, bipolar. You're going to, if you're on a high right now, then they're waiting for the other shoe to drop and it's not safe. So as you sit and you work with couples and getting these initial feelings, what would you or what have you said to someone that they're feeling maybe for the first time in a long time or allowing the emotions to at least be expressed? And they're concerned that their partner's never going to understand or their partner's not going to be able to get on board.
So a lot of the times we'll talk about, we get into the communication part, and which is really big because I give them some language to use with their partner so that they could feel safe, and asking their partner, hey, we need to talk about something, but I might get emotional. Are you okay with that? And it's huge. And a few of the people that I've worked with that have done that, it's really so interesting because they come back to me and they go, oh my God, like he listened. He was open to me. He didn't say anything. He let me finish. So it's a whole new world that opens up. And sometimes even the partner will get emotional. And they could be, sometimes they say to me, hey, I've never seen him cry. And it's just creating that safe space to be able to emote together. Really powerful. And I was a person, I never did. I stuffed it. And he would know because all of a sudden I would just erupt like a volcano and just explode. And he'd be like, just now, like he's really good about it because I don't do that anymore. But when I did, he would just look at me like, I don't know, like my head would spin around 3 times. Who's this person? But it was me stuffing it. And I know what I did to myself. So when I'm working with people, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about stuffing it, what that does to the body and why you want to release it. You want to put yourself in ease, not disease. And it's so, so important.
Yeah. That's the thing is from a health perspective, stuffing it in, you start to notice it in your body. And so did either of you notice or did you have a moment where you're like, oh no, this holding an emotion thing or not processing emotion thing is actually impacting my health too?
For me, I did.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I had ulcerative colitis and I had that like my late teens, early 20s. And I noticed when I would stuff and keep stuff in, I would get a flare. And it was all with stress and all of that on my body. And when I started doing the work on me, I'm healed. And I've been healed for several years, that I was able to heal my body. That when I went back to the doctor was like, what did you do? Because there was no scarring, there was nothing. He was in shock.
You're like, I stopped holding in all my rage and anger.
Exactly. And that's why I tell people, it's like, you can heal yourself. We all have the power to do this. And we all are so powerful. But it's just finding it and getting to it and honing it in.
Yeah. And just believing in that.
Right.
I notice it in my body a lot also for the same exact thing. And again, because I'm a more emotional person, it shows up a lot more in my body. And my body rewards me with that. And it says, hi.
I don't know anything about that life, Rob.
That's the point. So, but now that I'm listening to it and I'm seeing it, and also where it shows up in my body, which is huge for us. Because now it tells me, okay, oh, it's down here, abdominal or below. What do I feel safe? Yeah. Am I safe? I'm like, ooh, no. There's some part of me that doesn't feel safe, so let's go talk through that. And I may go to her and say, hey, can we talk about this? Because this is a little weird. This is a wonky feeling. And I'd love to play with that a little bit. So.
Yeah, I think that it's when you first get the awareness of the acute phases of something, when it's extreme, when you start to body map it, which is like what is so powerful as far as a practice, you realize that long before there's these acute or severe reactions, that when I go to speak my truth, I feel it shut down here, or my face gets hot, or for some people, you'll see them start to turn red, like on their chest, right? And it's literally energetically, it's building, but they're not moving the energy and it's holding it in. And so IBS, stomach issues, it's like, well, what are you upset about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I love I love, Rob, that you finally were like, okay, Uncle, let's do this. Like after a 5th job in a few years and getting laid off the last time. What's exciting you guys right now about the work that you're doing?
I would say the couples work is just really lighting us up right now because we've lived it, we've walked it, and now to take what we've experienced and how we have grown together and bring that out forward, bring it forward, and to be able to help people support them with the tools, strategies that we have found have helped us. And we've worked with a bunch of couples already, a lot of couples, and seeing how we've helped them. And look, and even if some of them went their separate ways, that's okay too. We're not here to fix or have a certain outcome for people. But it's empowering each individual too, which is so huge. That I feel is the biggest part of really, because when you're in a marriage for so long, sometimes you mesh. You don't even know your identity of who you are. And to be able to separate that out and just each person become their own, and it builds for such a great relationship.
It's really empowering to watch that and to see that the same things that we've grown with. And as Leslye mentioned, the couples that have decoupled, you can even see the happiness in them once they decoupled, because it was the best thing for them to do for their relationship, because it wasn't working. They were both miserable, and they were attempting to just smile through it. Construct, again, tied to that, I made a vow. Instead of saying, wait a minute, we're just not having fun anymore. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And again, we have no tie to fixing anything or to saving anything. We're just here to support the people and guide them. That's it, whatever that means.
I think that's the huge impact, though, is because, one, some people still have children and they want to be able to coexist, right? Even if they're not co-parenting anymore. Say the kids are out of the house, but they want to be able to have holidays together, for example, and have it be an amicable and even enjoyable possibility, maybe in the future, maybe not initially. And by doing that individual work on the person, they also stop blaming the other person for what isn't working and take radical self-responsibility. But that requires a lot of courage and a lot of bravery.
Yep.
It's one of the things when I was looking at the form I had y'all do before we came is like talking about being courageous, because this is brave work, and to really look at who do you want to be at the end of this, whether it's working out as a couple or a conscious uncoupling. Who do you want to be in this process? What is the version of you that when you're in integrity, when you are being authentic, when you are genuine, how do you want to look back on this and feel like, you know what, I did right by the situation in my own context and in my own kind of like heart and soul. So I love what y'all are doing. I'm thrilled to have you guys on the podcast a year later.
I will take responsibility.
No, but here's the thing. It's always in the correct timing.
It is.
It always is.
And that's why I encourage, I invite, but I don't push, because it does have to be in alignment and in the right timing. So any final, for the person listening, they've been hearing what y'all are saying today, what would you like to extend for maybe the person that's in a little bit of a sticky situation in their relationship? Or maybe they even went to a retreat and they're like, man, I don't know if my partner could get on board. What would you like to impart in someone's heart that you feel like either hasn't been said or you would like to say in this moment?
So I'll say, for couples out there, most of the time, it's one person that will come forward. Come forward for yourself. And sometimes the other couple will come on board to do the work, or sometimes it's just that one person. And even with being the one person, they can shift that relationship. So if they're feeling the call and they're feeling the need that something's not right and feeling right, come forward. Don't sit back on that.
Yeah. Don't let the flame go out.
Right.
All of us carry a small flame for ourselves and then for the relationship. If you'd like to keep that relationship, because some people don't, and that's okay. Let that go the way it has to go. But as long as you want to do that, as these two people, but you're not certain what to do, my answer would be, as you just said, have the courage. Have the courage to reach out, to have a conversation.
And And y'all have this workshop that people can get access to that you're offering to the listeners. Can you say more about the workshops?
Sure. So what we started to do right now, we just finished a workshop that we're offering to the listeners. It's about an hour workshop talking about communications. Because as Leslye was talking to new people, the biggest thing that came up was communications and how people have such a difficult time interacting with each other. So they get angry, they get this, they get that. And it was just, it's an amalgamation of a lot of different things that we've learned and the tools that we've created ourselves and have learned from others to make it so that you can have conversations, even as I say, the spicy ones. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's an easy one saying, hey, I'm going to Target. Do you need anything? That's an easy conversation. But when we have to have a hard conversation.
I'm not happy, fulfilled, and I don't want to do this anymore.
Right, or exactly, can we sit down and can you hold space for me?
Yeah.
So that's what that is all about, and it's going to be open to to the listeners. We'll give it to you in the show notes, so they'll have access to that. And yeah, we're very excited for folks to take a look at that. And
we're going to be creating many more workshops.
Yep.
From all the learnings that we've had, I believe our next one is going to be on boundaries. So
they're a thing, people.
They are.
And it's something we all talk about, but when you actually sit down and inventory where you lack boundaries, it's significant. There's a reason why Tom made a boundaries workshop at one point, is because he could use some reminders sometimes of maybe not working 18-hour days in service of people. Maybe let's cut it to 12. I don't know. Let's be crazy.
and that became a lot of our guideposts for our work on boundaries. Because, again, in Condor, you've talked a lot about that.
Yes.
In terms of how important that is and how it became us embodying that. And then all of a sudden, boundaries now are like, oh, and everyone we talk to. So do you have what do you think about this? And they go, blah, and you go, In our mind, we're like, they don't have a boundary. There's not even a request.
They don't even understand what a boundary is or how it serves. It makes life so much easier and everyone else around you so much more at ease because they know how to participate with you. They know how to work with you. They know how to enjoy you. They know how to, if you're having a bad day, like how to interact with you. Right. And so boundaries are challenging at first, but then once you get that skill, life gets so much easier for you and everyone around you.
100%.
Right.
We agree with you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's powerful.
Well, thanks, y'all, for coming on the podcast. It was a perfect show, and I'm excited to see what else you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting
us. So much.
This has been amazing.
And thanks for creating what you guys have created.
Yes.
Because as I mentioned earlier, that was a huge part of our life, and it's a huge part of what even our family and how we all interact.
We live it.
So we live it and embody it.
We totally live it, and our kids live it.
So we really and truly appreciate that.
It's powerful.
Thank you guys so much for us.
Thank you.